As a mere participant in the world of gaming, someone who has solely ever had their opinion constructed with the controller in hand and game on screen, I'm sure my understanding of game design is surface level at best. But to say that my experiences have been limiting would be grossly inaccurate. The gaming genre to me has always been more interpreted as a book cover and less so relevant to the actual material within the pages. My growing portfolio of games completed, let alone played, spans a wide berth of mediums. And in this participation of active entertainment, I have noticed a growing trend that has, in its worst case, started to narrow my enjoyment of the industry as a whole. Now, saying that might come across cynical. Such a wide net of a statement is sure to catch the bad, but also the good. And in some cases, I would agree that it has turned me off from trying what would be an amazing experience of a game. But first, what is the trend I'm speaking of? To be honest, there's a lot in games media in the industry as a whole that I would find destructive to the entertainment medium. But in my opinion, for today, which this is solely an opinion, I wanted to focus on open world game design and the increasing desire of game developers to keep your time solely invested in their product for as long as possible. What I'm referring to as open world bloat. Games with an open world, especially those that are constantly alive and moving, must be of a serious challenge for the entirety of a game development team. And in that, I can understand the complexities of keeping everything unified and purposeful for the game itself and the players who will experience it. However, at some point in the last 20 years of gaming, which is a broad spectrum, true, a growing concession among publishers and developers is a game's worth is valued by its amount of content no matter how simple or repetitive it may be. I remember my first experience coming across such a revelation when playing Assassin's Creed 2 with its plethora of map markers, feather collecting, and more. Of course, the vast majority of this additional content is in fact optional in most cases. But the existence of this content, to me, is a sign of time spent and taken away from more meaningful and perhaps shorter instances of better polished gameplay and stories. When open world games begin to boast time frames of over 100 hours for a total completion of its product, and on average half of that time just to engage with a normal playthrough, I personally lose any interest in wanting to experience that game at all. Perhaps his opinion comes from someone who is losing time to fully engage with this hobby, and I generally hear such similar complaints from fellow friends who have a full-time job, kids, or other responsibilities. However, those same people find the video game industry to be their favorite pastime and want to be able to engage with the same worlds and stories they played in as kids. And those same games, on average, have grown to such colossal sizes worth of playtime that they demand dozens of hours to even begin to scratch the surface. Even more damaging to me is that these games with such an unappetizing bloat worth of content are becoming less and less replayable. At best, I can skip the silly side missions and collectibles, but at worst I am forced to watch my character pick up necessary resources with painstakingly long animation times, or clear yet another fortified checkpoint to move the story along. The first time around, it might not be as noticeably boring or interruptive to the experience, but when games request multiple playthroughs for slight variables to different endings, which most open world games have now, these annoyances become much more glaring in how intrusive they really are. This content over substance becomes ever so obvious when the vast majority of your playtime becomes roaming large and usually forgettable landscapes dotted with mindless puzzles, collectible resources for a generic crafting system, and roughly animated NPCs who are static to the world and offer only bare-bone fetch quests or unimportant dialogue. There are cases of games fine-tuning these experiences, sure, but I would argue the vast majority of those games find a niche or slight few mechanics and hone in on them. Comparing that instead to a game with an atlas worth of menus, craftables, side quests, locations, collectibles, minigames, and more, these games begin to feel more like a checklist of what does our game have and not what does our game do well. This same checklist style approach of gameplay in now dozens of open world IPs is creeping its way into other genres across the gaming entertainment world. More and more we see games, especially those of live service nature, demand retention with season passes, weekly missions, daily login rewards, and other specialty events. They boast plenty to do and so little time to do it all, as if it's a casino advertisement upon a billboard you're speeding past along the highway. And in that lies my concern. This style of game is not so much taking over, but is becoming so abundant across genres to studios to see the industry not as an art-infused entertainment medium, but an investment for shareholders and boardroom executives. Luckily, I think in the last few years this approach of game design has definitely taken some hits and produced a few failures. And perhaps now, more than ever, participants of the gaming hobby have more of a voice. Or, perhaps even more cynical of a take, Gamers just have less time and money to throw around than ever before, and in such a bloated marketplace, games that demand the most time over substance are feeling the worst of this effect. In this opinion piece, I didn't want to solely focus on any game or development studio, but more of the broad take as a whole. My rant is a bit short too, as I have truly stepped back from open world games and only picked up a slight few in recent years. However, that is solely on the experiences I have endured noted across this essay. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me, and if so, be sure to like the video. I want to do more opinion pieces over the video game industry, maybe diving into live service gaming or storytelling woes I have. If you're interested in that, then let me know by subscribing to the channel, and be sure to check out our other videos for mild entertainment. I'd also love to hear your opinion on this take and see where you come from as well. Perhaps we can have a dialogue of our own in the comment section. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great one.